Teachers and other sincere friends of education realize that something tangible and practical must be done to rescue the vocation of teaching in Ontario. All is not well, and has not been well for many years. The old babble of lip service in praise of teaching and education provides neither solace nor inspiration to those who are now prepared to take a fundamental step to safeguard the ancient and honorable calling of teaching. We who know what the vocation needs to stabilize it submit the following facts, and herewith state that we are prepared to cooperate generously with all citizens who have the true interests of their own children at heart. We invite their support for the Teaching Profession Act.
Those stirring words were just one part of an almost 10-year campaign to have teaching recognized as a profession. Scores of teachers played a part, but as we remember our roots, 7 in particular must be mentioned for their dedication to securing the Teaching Profession Act. First, we honor Secretaries Carr, Cawood, and Henry, who proudly represented their federations while also finding common ground and working tirelessly together. Nora Hodgins, Secretary of the Ontario Teachers' Council, became the legendary and long-term first Secretary of OTF. Agnes Meek, Arthur McAdam, and Norman MacLeod were the 3 classroom teachers who were chosen to negotiate with the government. Norman MacLeod subsequently became the first president of OTF. Their work promoting the idea of professional recognition was so successful that in 1943, Ontario teachers voted almost 13-1 in favor of a Teaching Profession Act. They were also successful working with the government and found an ally in the Honourable George Drew, Premier of Ontario, who agreed that the act was needed and that all teachers should be represented by a federation. It was about time. And at third reading on April 5, 1944, the Teaching Profession Act passed unanimously. OTF got off to a fast start. In its first year, we were a clear voice on important matters such as teacher qualifications, salary scales, discipline, contracts, and superannuation. In year 2, we made recommendations on adult education, curriculum and textbooks, school buildings and equipment, and educational research. In year 3, the all-important Code of Ethics was developed. And in 1947, Father Harrigan creatively remarked in his presidential report,
"The OTF during the past year has led the normal life of any 3-year-old. Weaned from its maternal parent, having taken its first steps by itself, it has become conscious of its social responsibility and has won recognition as an entity with ideas, power of expression, and capability of action. As a 3-year-old, the OTF is capable, under wise guidance, of further adjustment, greater coordination and development, and happy growth through adolescence to a fruitful maturity."
The next 72 years were just as busy and just as productive. A retired teacher, retired factory worker, and retired office manager walk into a bar. The teacher says, "I'm buying." The other 2 say, "Damn right you are." Just a little pension humor, folks. We all know that we have one of the best managed, best performing pension plans in the world. But it's easy to forget that it only started to become that powerhouse about 30 years ago. In the late 1980s, 3 government reports came out. One recommended opening up the plan's investment options, previously limited to Ontario debentures. A good idea. The second suggested merging the basic pension fund and a separate indexation fund that had been started to provide inflation protection. Another good idea. And the third report recommended a new and equal joint government-teacher governance structure with all pension matters being open to negotiation. That was a great idea. Everything was looking good. But then the Liberals announced they wouldn't go along with a third-party resolution mechanism and instead proposed that the government should control contribution rates, benefits, and the use of the surplus funds. Teachers weren't going to stand for that. On April 1st, 1989, 20,000 teachers and thousands of allies descended on Copps Coliseum in Hamilton for a raucous protest followed by a march on the nearby Liberal Convention. The OTF board approved protest actions up to and including a one-day school closure. In December, leaders staged a sit-in at Queen's Park. These actions got the government's attention. But the Liberals still ended up passing their bill, and then came to deeply regret it in the next election, when teachers campaigned against them ferociously. The new NDP government then reopened talks, and by August 1991, a deal was in place. The OTPP, our plan for the future, was born, and it's been a rocket ride ever since.
And welcome to K-Tel's 10 Great Protest Hits. Who can forget songs like Here We Are in Ontario, we got a government that just don't care. They blame the teachers for everything, and we know that's just not fair. Public education, to protect it, that's our fight. And our support is growing because the people know we're right. Load on teachers, make them work for free. Put the load on teachers, and call it Bill 116. Or who could forget this timeless hit? I was doing some marking late one night when my eyes beheld an eerie sight. On the TV, the minister with his eyes agleam, bragging about what he was planning for me. He planned the mash, he planned the teacher bash, the teacher bash. It was a short-term smash, he did the bash. It caught on like a flash, he did the bash. He did the teacher bash. Oh, but let's forget about Harris for a while. Think about Doug Ford. Don't know much about history, has a very short memory. He wants the bigger sizes, yes, it's true. But parents and teachers know what that will do, and ask the students because they know too. What a wrong-headed thing for them to do. What a wonderful world it won't be. Or how about this timeless hit? You who teach a full load don't have to be told what your numbers grow by. And so think to yourself, you have the proof not to trust that guy. Don't you ever ask him why? All he seems to do is lie. Just look at him and sigh. Well, Doug, it's a bungle, a mighty bungle. The liar sleeps tonight. It's a bungle, a mighty bungle, and the liar sleeps tonight. But we won't go away, everybody. We won't go away, no way.
Brings back a few memories, eh? The camaraderie, the commitment, the outrage, the belief in collective action, and the willingness to fight for our rights. We don't go looking for these fights, but we sure don't back down when they come our way. From strikes by locals to the battle for our pensions, from the social contract to the political protest, from days of action to rallies for social justice, teachers have never been silent. With the formation of OTF in the 40s, teachers gained a collective professional voice. Although salary scales and local agreements were reached, teachers still did not have a legislated framework for bargaining. Their only option to signal their opposition in bargaining was the use of mass resignations. Then, in 1972, came the Revel Committee report, which recommended teachers not be allowed to strike, submit to compulsory arbitration, and have no right to negotiate working conditions. Those were fighting words. And over the next 3 years, there were mass resignations, and on December 8, 1973, a province-wide walkout finally got the government to drop the idea. Teachers won the right to strike, bargain in good faith, and no restrictions on the bargaining agenda with the passing of Bill 100, which became law in 1975. More infringements on collective bargaining came from an unlikely source. Teachers were hopeful with the election of the Ray NDP government in 1990. The social contract in 1993 brought a pay freeze, a grid freeze for newer teachers' salaries, the downsizing of staff, and who can forget Ray days. While it was bad news for teacher collective bargaining, the Ray government did sign into law the pension partnership we enjoy today. We expected the worst when Harris came to power, and it's fair to say he exceeded our expectations. This time, the future of publicly funded education was at stake. Harris's legacy includes school board amalgamation and loss of local taxation powers. The Tories pushed their agenda for standardized testing, set up the College of Teachers, and tried to institute mandatory recertification for teachers. They even started a tax credit for parents who sent their children to private schools. 11 days of action between 1995 and 1998 took place across Ontario as the Labour movement, along with teachers, coalesced in opposition to the Harris cuts. Bill 160 represented the worst of the Harris agenda. It was a power grab to further centralize, cut funding, repeal Bill 100, and limit the scope of bargaining. Teachers had had enough. On October 27, 1997, all public schools closed across Ontario, as more than 125,000 teachers took part in the largest protest in Canadian education history. Teachers were joined by many allies, parent groups and the broader Labour movement among them. While we couldn't stop Bill 160 and lost our principal and vice principal members in the process, many of the most draconian measures that were contemplated in the original bill were ultimately withdrawn. And our resistance may have stopped the Harris government from other assaults on public education and public services in general. With the election of the education premier in 2003, things were looking up. The private school tax credit was scrapped, recertification disappeared, and over the next decade or so, new programs and funding were introduced, including full-day junior kindergarten. OTF and the affiliates were consulted and often even listened to. Teachers saw unprecedented opportunities for voluntary professional learning, but these years were not without challenges. Teachers wrestled with initiative overload and ever-increasing expectations, and affiliates wrestled with a new, formalized provincial bargaining regime. Throughout all of these struggles, teachers recognized the value of Labour allies and, in turn, Labour recognized the force of teachers. There were many more times when teachers had to fight for their rights, and there will be more in the future. Win or lose, we know that power lies in solidarity and determined collective action. As teachers, we are dedicated to change. Change in our students, change in our schools, change for the better. And in the last 75 years, we've seen a lot of it. Teachers have led the change in Ontario's classrooms in pedagogy, assessment, resources, professional learning, and curriculum development. Our job, simply put, has been to create and promote ideas. Ideas that give our members new skills, new knowledge, and new strategies that help make them better teachers. As early as 1944, OTF had a committee on educational research, and by 1949, we had 17 special committees, including one on the rapidly growing and, at the time, revolutionary use of audiovisual aids, and another on something called Grade 13 Problems. Be it curriculum, ethics, or international exchanges, the goal of OTF committees and publications is to ensure that teachers are able to teach effectively and government and school board decisions reflect the realities and needs of frontline teachers. And OTF has a history of speaking for teachers, with the ministry, school boards, parent groups, faculties of education, and more recently, the EQAO and College of Teachers. Despite all the significant changes in education and the classroom over the past 75 years, we are and will always be teachers who put students first. Central to our mission is bringing people in education together. OTF is where Ontario's teacher unions reach consensus on issues, strategies, and pensions on behalf of teachers. And as a member of CTF, we are part of the national voice of teachers. We know that teachers love working together, and we help to connect them through professional learning and by creating and supporting collaborative networks of teachers, all in keeping with OTF's motto for professional learning, by teachers, for teachers. We also bring the many subject and division associations together to learn from one another and share. The camaraderie of teachers even extends to the OTF campground, where teachers have summered together through multiple generations. And we celebrate their success by working with our friends at OTIP to look into the classrooms of award-winning teachers. We showcase the compassion and creativity of Ontario's teachers to the whole world.
On behalf of the Ontario Teachers Insurance Plan, I would like to congratulate the Ontario Teachers Federation on their 75th anniversary. This is a wonderful achievement, and we are incredibly proud to celebrate with you as your longtime partner and fellow advocate for members of the education community. Together, we take great pride in this work, which has been shown through the projects we have shared since OTIP's inception more than 40 years ago. This has included everything from supporting teachers on the picket lines to providing unique value-add programs that reward and recognize members of the education community. One program that I know we are all particularly proud of is the OTIP Teaching Awards, where we celebrate teachers who light a spark in their students and inspire their colleagues. These annual awards recognize the vital contribution teachers make to society, and we couldn't be more honored to collaborate with OTF on this. It really is a wonderful opportunity to celebrate people who are truly making a difference and putting the needs of students first. OTF, you have so much to celebrate as you mark this milestone. We couldn't be more proud of the work and the accomplishments we have shared. Congratulations again on your 75th anniversary.
OTF also has a long history of working with those outside our immediate family, be they allies in the labor movement, partners in education, like-minded social justice groups, or local and international charitable or advocacy organizations. TVO and TFO are perfect examples. Our connections through programming and professional development go way back, and we have shared a strong commitment to learning.
Bonjour, mon nom est Julie Caron, je suis directrice principale apprentissage numérique au groupe Média TFO et il me fait plaisir aujourd'hui de souhaiter un joyeux 75e anniversaire à la Fédération des enseignantes et enseignants de l'Ontario. À TFO, en tant qu'agence publique à vocation éducative, nous croyons profondément que l'évolution de notre société pour créer un monde meilleur passe avant tout par l'éducation. Et les enseignantes et enseignants jouent un rôle crucial dans cette transformation. La relation entre TFO et la Fédération des enseignantes et enseignants de l'Ontario passe principalement par le prix de l'enseignement. En nous donnant cette occasion de nous impliquer dans cette activité de reconnaissance, la Fédération nous a permis de constater à quel point la profession enseignante regorge d'hommes et de femmes exceptionnels qui se dévouent chaque jour passionnément à l'épanouissement des jeunes et des communautés. Et ce, peu importe leur horizon social, leurs talents, leurs forces et leurs difficultés. Ma première expérience de collaboration étroite avec la Fédération date de mon arrivée à TFO en 2012 et depuis ce temps, TFO présente un prix spécial pour un enseignant ou une enseignante d'une école de langue française de l'Ontario, permettant ainsi de mettre en lumière le travail essentiel de ces hommes et femmes qui favorisent l'épanouissement des jeunes francophones et de la langue française en Ontario. Pour TFO, la Fédération est une source d'inspiration qui nous aide à mieux réaliser notre mission éducative, celle d'être un partenaire éducatif et culturel incontournable pour le développement des compétences globales en français. Alors, longue vie et bon anniversaire à la Fédération des enseignantes et enseignants de l'Ontario.
Quite naturally, OTF focuses support on programs for children and families, both outside and inside the classroom. Our relationship with Frontier College is one of the most enduring. We are proud founding sponsors of the Lieutenant Governor's Literacy Camps administered by Frontier College, and we have worked together on many other projects. In 2018, Frontier College received our Greer Award for its long-standing commitment to boosting literacy and engagement in Indigenous communities and its significant support for public education.
Hello, my name is Stephen Fall, and I am President and CEO of Frontier College. The Ontario Teachers Federation has been a strong supporter of Frontier College for a number of years. Specifically, the OTF supports our summer literacy camps in Ontario. These camps are held in Indigenous communities throughout the province and reach thousands of children each year. They're designed to stem summer learning loss, which can occur in many communities. We know from teachers, parents, and the learners themselves that these programs are tremendously successful, and we owe a debt of gratitude to the OTF for helping make these camps possible. A few years ago, we were pleased to present the OTF with our Fitzpatrick Award. This is the highest recognition Frontier College gives, and it goes to an organization that shows strong support for literacy, and obviously that is the OTF. This was our way of acknowledging the tremendous impact you've had on the lives of our learners. I want to congratulate the OTF on its 75th anniversary. We especially appreciate your support because you're teachers, and we know that you know the value of our work and the need for it. So thanks again to the OTF. Together, truly, we are changing lives through the power of literacy.
OTF seeks out programs that champion human rights and the best interests of children, whether playing a role to support children and youth mental health through coalition work or supporting Indigenous education and truth and reconciliation. For 10 years, we have focused on supporting a specific charity. Our 2019 charity is Community Living Ontario. And every year, with parents, teachers, and students, we celebrate literacy at Word on the Street. In the classroom, teachers and their students participate in Student Vote, a program aimed at civic and democratic engagement of youth. Student Vote got off the ground in 2002, and OTF and the affiliates were there lending support and encouragement. We continue to do so as the program has grown in depth and breadth.
Happy anniversary, OTF. It's Taylor Gunn, President of Civics, and I wish you a wonderful 75th anniversary. I hope you are enjoying a wonderful night, and it's my privilege to be part of it and say hi. With your support, we've grown into more than 3,000 schools in Ontario, more than 60% of all schools. That's a privilege, and it's a special achievement. And we're not stopping there, and I know that you don't want us to stop there. And this kind of work can be difficult. Not everyone, it seems like not everyone in the world is interested in a healthy and robust democracy with an engaged citizenry. And so some days it can be tough. And what you've enabled us to do is focus on this huge mission. And you've helped us focus with moral support, financial support, very, very good advice. And we appreciate it so much. So for that and for our democracy, I hope that you'll be around another 75 years. I think Ontario sure needs it. And until then, I wish you a very happy anniversary, and I wish you a wonderful night as well.
Living our values extends far beyond Ontario, and we know the importance of being a good global citizen. OTF has offered support through Education International's disaster relief programs. For over 40 years, OTF's International Assistance Fund has provided support to locally initiated educational projects in developing countries around the world. And we remember proudly OTF being a voice many years ago calling for Nelson Mandela's release from prison. And we were ecstatic to welcome him to Sky Dome in 1998, reveling in his freedom and his cause. Check out the volunteers in any community group, and you'll always find an extraordinary number of our members. Even with all their extracurriculars, the sports teams, clubs, and activities, they're out there giving their time, expertise, and enthusiasm, and helping others. You could say that, as Ontario's representative for teachers, this is all part of our DNA.